Hi, Chris. Hi, Andrea. I can't hear you, but something. Not sure what that is. Can you hear me? Anybody hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Andrea, maybe your phone, maybe you're on mute. I don't know.
There we go. She's.
Still can't hear you.
You have your microphone turned off.
There you go. Can you hear
Yep.
me?
We
Okay.
can. Thanks.
Jeremy, your mailbox is full. Did you know that for voicemail?
Oh, I'm sure. In the office or my cell phone?
Office.
It's full. Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Wouldn't let me leave a message because
Okay.
I read this when I got it and I forgot to ask you that I wanted to join in. I thought the Zoom was on here for some reason after I looked at it, but someone else helped me, so that's good.
There you go. Yeah, we got it on the agenda on Monday, up on the agenda. So sorry
Okay.
about that.
No worries.
I'm recovering from COVID, so
I'm sorry.
trying not to be in the office. The new CDC guidance is not great on this stuff. So doing the best I can.
Good.
Just so everyone knows, this is being, it's obviously being recorded and it's on the town's YouTube channel live right now as well. Hi, Eileen. How are you?
You're muted too. She is muted also.
Hi, okay, I'm not muted anymore.
Right.
Got to change my name, my husband at the moment.
Hello.
Hi,
I think Pat's trying to join here.
Okay.
There's Rosalie.
Ooh, Rosalind.
All right, what time is it? 1:58. We still got 2 minutes. I'm gonna ask Fi if you guys have the ability to share your screen or do you want me to try to do that? Okay, yeah. Hi, Pat.
Huh?
Oh.
You're muted.
Okay,
There you are. Rosalie, you're still muted as well. There we go. All right. We'll wait a minute, then we can get going.
I think Kelly, one of the owners, wanted to join too, so she
Okay.
might be, yeah.
All right.
Jeremy, how are you feeling?
You know, every day is like a different day. Some days are better than the day before, but I will say it's the worst headache I've ever had in my entire life.
Ugh.
Yeah.
And nothing touches it. My kids are on the mend, which is good. My wife's about where I am. We're kind of exhausted. Taking care of a 3 and 6-year-old is, while everyone has COVID, is hard. And trying to get sleep and rest doesn't really work when you got little ones
Oh my
that are
God.
sick.
Yeah.
Fine if they were better, but they're sick. So, all right, we're at 2 o'clock. I see we've got Chris, who's a committee member. Rosalie's a committee member. Eileen is a committee member, and so is Pat Scaling. BD, you're, I think, just interested party right now, right? And then we also have here Andrea Bell, who is, I think, a neighbor or lives near the property.
I'm 115.
Okay, and then we've got Kelly Richardson, it looks like, and I think she's the property owner.
Mhm.
And then we have from Phi, forgive me, I don't remember your names now, I'm sorry.
Helena Leclerc.
And Tim Lewis.
And Tim, right. Thank
And Tim and Helene? Helena, okay.
And then we got Mike Scaling, who's obviously interested party. So hi, Mike. Good to see you.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe I'll start this, Pat, and Eileen, if you want, just to kind of lay the groundwork of where we are, why we're here. We have an application from, and again, this is being recorded. It's live on YouTube as well. We've got an application came into the Code and Planning Office for Kelly and Jason Richardson at 117 Chestnut to demolish a portion of the house at the rear of the structure. And a couple years ago, the town voted to adopt a demolition delay ordinance. It's not a historic preservation ordinance or design review ordinance. It is a demolition delay ordinance. And this is the first one of these that we've had, just so everyone knows, since that was adopted. So bear with the committee as we get through this process. And maybe I'll go from just start there, maybe end it there. I'm Jeremy Martin, Planning and Development Director for the town. Again, we've got Historic Resource Committee members here. It sounds like Eileen, who's the chair, is going to hand off those responsibilities to Pat today, if that's okay with everyone. And then we've got, again, Helena and Tim. And I think probably Pat, unless you want to make some opening remarks, maybe we should just let Phi and the owner kind of lay out what they're proposing to do and why. And again, this is a demolition delay ordinance. There's you need to stick with the ordinance says, just keep that in mind. And does that make sense, Pat, to let Phi go, or do you want to say something before we start?
well, I've just had a few remarks about the history of the house that I thought might be a good opening, and then let Phi go with their application.
Sure, that's
Okay.
fine, yeah.
Well, as usual, I got interested in who the people were who lived there. And so I started with Simeon Howe. And I had fun with it. So I thought I'd just share with you. You know, although the historic preservation, the National Register says that it was circa 1830, I found in deed research that Simeon Howe did not buy that land until 1835. So maybe there was a house on it in 1830, but it says he bought a parcel of land with no building. So I thought that was interesting. So maybe it was more like 1835. And it's very similar in design to the Osier House at the top of the street. If you go up Chestnut Street on the right, the one at the top of the hill, the Osier House is almost exactly like it. Simeon Howe did not buy that land until 1835.
Oh, shit, I'm sorry.
Maybe there was a house on
Is that
it.
Chris?
That's me. I just turned on my YouTube and
Yeah, you kind of have to do that. Otherwise you get, there you go. Okay,
Okay.
sounds good.
So I'm
Sorry.
not going to be long, Chris.
oh no, that's all right. I'm just trying to get all my screens going at once.
The L is an unknown date. It was probably prior to 1937 because the tax maps of 1937 show the L with the house. It's had a really interesting history. Simeon Howe was a sailor. He was born in Lincolnville. In 1814, he married a young woman named Jane Camery. In 1838, they had 4 children. Simeon sold half of his house to his brother Ephraim, and they lived in the same house. They shared the basement, they shared half of the house. Simeon gave him passing privileges. I guess that meant that he could come in and out of the door. But then Simeon sold it in 1841, left Ephraim living in the other half of the house, and he sold it to a gentleman named James Nelson Bartlett for reasons unknown. And so I just thought that was kind of a quirky little history, and I wanted to share it. So Kelly, hello, I'm glad to meet you. And I wrote all of this up, and all of the deeds that I searched, I've clamped them together, and I'll give them to Tim or Helen, and they can mail them to you. You might be interested. It's kind of fun. And I only brought it up to 1878, and I left the rest of it for you because I thought you might enjoy it, searching out yourself. So that's all. I just wanted to put that little interesting personal cultural tidbit at the beginning of this. So if Tim or Helena would like to go ahead with the application, I guess we're ready.
Sure. Pat, I just wanted to say, really appreciate that kind of humanizing the house. And I know that that's something that Kelly also really values. I think sort of the historic charm was something that attracted her to the property in the first place. And so it's definitely something that we're sensitive to and aware of. And, you know, hearing stories of the people who inhabited the space always kind of makes it feel more alive and, you know, interesting. So definitely appreciate that information. I think, I don't know if everyone has seen the packet of information that I sent, that was sent out. I'm going to, hold on a second, I'm going to share my screen.
Can I also, while you do that, Helena, just let me, I think it's important too for everyone to know, properties that are on the National Register, unless the community has a historic preservation ordinance, I think Pat and I think most of the members know this, unless if the community doesn't have a historic preservation ordinance, even though it's on the National Register, things can be done to the building without any review, without any permits per se or approvals for them. It's only if there's a federal undertaking on a national registered property is when a review gets done by the state, actually by the feds via the State Historic Preservation Commission. That's just, I think, important for people to know. I think oftentimes people think that historic properties on the National Register have protections, and they generally don't unless there's a federal undertaking involved, or if the town has a historic preservation ordinance. Camden does not have that. We do have this demolition review. It's a demolition delay ordinance, if you will, and that's all that it is. So go ahead, Helena.
Okay, I'm going to try this and see if it works. Can everybody see the screen now?
Yes.
Okay, so a lot of this is probably familiar to those of you who received the packets. What you see here is this is 117 Chestnut Street, highlighted in yellow is the property. And in purple at the rear of the structure is the portion of the structure that is proposed to be demolished. Down to the foundation, we are planning on rebuilding a 1.5-story addition in that same location. What you see to the left are photos of the Chestnut Street facade. And these are the brick cape that is described in the application to the National Park Service for the National Registry for Chestnut Street kind of designation. So that this view is what you see right from Chestnut Street here, just for everyone's kind of orientation. So as Jeremy mentioned, this is a single family house, and the current owners, Kelly and Jason, purchased the property in September, and they're renovating the house for the purposes of making it their permanent residence. So they're moving to the area this year. We'll be renting a property while the renovations are occurring. Part of the renovations is upgrading the energy efficiency of the structure and updating the kitchens and the bathrooms on the interior. Obviously, another portion of the work is this demolition of just this portion of the structure at the rear near the driveway, which it seems like it was used as a workshop or the current main entry into the house, really, that was used by the previous owners. And I think this is the L that Pat was describing. So this would be the original facade, and then this was the L right here. While the date of the construction of this portion of the structure, exact date is unknown. Tim has looked at it, and we believe it was constructed in the late 20th century. It's a slab on grade, or actually, no, there's a crawl space. There is a crawl space.
There's no crawl space there.
There's no?
No.
Oh, the tax map says there's a crawl space. Okay, well, no crawl space, slab on grade. And it has this asymmetrical roof line, a couple of high windows. It really appears as a more utilitarian space. That's how it was used in a more recent construction. So based on the location of this portion of the structure, the age of the structure, and sort of the kind of lack of architectural distinction, at least in our opinion, of this portion of the structure, we are hoping that the committee would consider waiving or reducing the 120-day delay period for the demolition permit. So that's really the main reason why we were submitting this application. And as another portion of the scope of work has to do with the removal of the 3 chimneys. 2 chimneys appear or occur in the original brick portion. You can see them here, one on either side, at either end of the building. And then the third is located in the L in the rear of the building. So I think I had kind of written about these in the application that I had sent out, but also, I did a little bit of further review into the zoning ordinance language. And let's see here, hold on. This is the interior of that rear portion of the structure, as you can see it. And it seemed that this section section 2, 1A1 says, for the purpose of this section, buildings are defined as structures intended to shelter some sort of human activity. The term building can also be referred to historically and functionally related buildings such as barn or other outbuilding. This section also applies to building additions such as L's or wings of the building identified as architecturally significant. This section does not apply to interior demolition or removal and or replacement or repair of exterior features such as siding, windows, trim, or decorative elements. So, and this is again, this is the portion of the ordinance that deals with the demolition delay permit. So it was our interpretation that actually the chimneys and the removal of the chimneys should be excluded from this review altogether. So that was just something that was a little bit different from what I had included in the application that was sent out to everybody. And it was just some kind of further review of the language. But I think that pretty much covers what we were hoping to do. And if anyone has any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Okay. Okay, well, I wanted to compliment you on the overall application. I thought it was an excellent application for the first one. It was very readable. You know, I thought it was a wonderful one for us to start out on. So I wanted to thank you for the job that you did with that application. As Jeremy said, we do not have a general comprehensive historic preservation ordinance for the town of Camden. And in fact, you're correct that we can only comment on the demolition of the subject building that you are proposing to demolish. But I think maybe there'll be some questions. Let's go ahead with the questions and then we can go on from there. Is there anyone on the committee that wants to ask a question? I do have a request that, you know, perhaps if we share our concerns that in a way removing those features will denigrate the historic quality of the building, we can't judge on that because that's not what we're here for today. That maybe you'll hear that it really matters to the community that our historic districts are maintained and taken seriously until such time as we do have a comprehensive historic ordinance. I went ahead just out of curiosity and had my husband did a picture of the house with chimneys and without, and I'd like to share them. And really, honestly, it's up to you what you do, but I just thought it does make a pretty good visual of what the building would look like with and without. And
So
I'm
Helen,
going to share them because we have them, but you know, again, we're talking about the small building addition at the end of in the back of the property.
Sure. Do I need to stop sharing? Okay.
please. Yep. Thank you.
Okay. And we can share that screen by just so you have a visual.
Yeah.
Because you may change your mind. You may decide you want to keep
you know,
it.
it's interesting, and obviously we'll definitely look at that. You know, both Kelly and Jason and us, you know, value the architectural significance of the chimneys. Unfortunately, they're in pretty bad disrepair. We had a fireplace inspection done because the original intent was to try to refurbish them and actually use them as wood burning chimneys. But they were collapsed on the interior. The exterior had several loose bricks and mortar missing. So unfortunately, the actual scope of work of kind of maintaining them and returning to them to a safe and you know, proper condition was a pretty significant investment.
Right.
And it just right now is not really in the project budget, you know, in terms of our total scope of the project.
Okay. Well, so this is showing the building with the chimneys. You can see all three of them here. And
How
then
do you get to see that? I can't bring that up.
you can't bring it up.
It should be on the screen share, Chris. I mean, I see it. Does everyone else see what Pat's
see it.
showing?
Yep. Let's see.
And one of the little squares or rectangles there?
It should dominate the
Yeah.
picture.
Chris, go up to the top right corner. You might see icon says view.
You,
And
right.
you may be looking at just one thing instead of the whole screen?
I'm looking at the gallery.
You're looking at the gallery. Is there something up there that says,
Okay, now I'm back to,
I don't know why you're not seeing it, Chris. I mean,
Hold on one second.
mine is showing side by side gallery and I see the people on the right-hand side of the screen and the screen that Pat's sharing in the center of the screen.
If you go up to the little icon that says view,
I've got that, yep.
okay, click on that and go to standard,
Go to, excuse me, to,
standard or full screen. Do
Doesn't
one of
say-
those.
it doesn't say anything about that.
Did you
It just
click
says
on it?
Speaker gallery and full screen.
Okay, try full screen. And
Were you able to see Helena's presentation, her screen share?
No, I wasn't.
Huh.
But I have it on here on my. Well, wait a minute. I think I have it on there now. Yeah, it's on my other computer. Did you hear me?
do you have it, Chris?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
Okay.
good. Okay, so then that's with chimneys, then let's move on to without. Can you remove the chimneys?
Let's see. Let's see, just a second. Okay, there's the without.
I would like to see a front view of the house without the chimneys.
Okay,
This view doesn't really mean anything, but the
Okay.
front view of the house, I think, is very important.
well, we have one other view. This one.
That's the other side. No, but the front view of the house is the
Yeah,
important one.
yeah. We
Which I
don't
think
have, I don't have it head on. I'm sorry. I just have this.
Because I think that makes a
the other
difference.
one. Yeah,
Pat, I can find it.
okay.
I do have it. It may,
I have a couple of questions.
yeah,
Andrea, maybe we should, I think the committee needs to probably discuss a little bit, or maybe, I guess they
Okay.
could take your questions and then they can then maybe include them in part of their discussion.
That
How's that?
sounds good.
I just wondered what the outside of the new building was going to be. Is it going to be brick? Is it going to be wood? Is it going to be? I didn't see that.
Well, shall we save that for later? And just.
Oh, okay.
Again, so this was mostly concerned about the demolition and the appropriateness of the demolition of the structure. But yes, I mean, the rear addition will be, in keeping with the general character of the the rest of the house. It's not going to be brick, but it will likely be, wood clapboards or something similar. And it will be, the intent is really to open up to the rest of the yard because they have quite a large yard on that property. So it's, try to create more of a connection to that space. So bring it into the house a bit more.
Will all the work be going out of the driveway?
I would assume so. I guess
Yes.
that's Tim's.
Yeah, well, we basically be going in there and taking down that rear portion from the driveway side and then disposing of it.
Okay, but the garage stays and the other little
Yes.
sheds stay? Okay, those are just general questions since I'm next door.
Okay. Again, Andrea, we don't have design review privileges. We just have demolition
Okay.
concerns, but these are good questions. I mean, just for people to know what's going on, I think. So committee, do you have any questions, comments?
Who is this? Us?
Committee members? Yeah.
Yeah.
Rosa?
Yeah, so I thought that it was important that we share with everybody the comments of the Maine Preservation Commission about the chimneys, the concern about that. There is, I think, generally no, on their part or our part, any concern about removal of that very late workshop on the back. But I think the question is whether the two chimneys would be considered as part of the building of the original building, and whether their removal would affect the character of the building. So they say from the Maine Historic Preservation point of view, they say, quote, the front two chimneys appear to be original to the house. And I believe, this is Michael Gobelbane speaking, I believe are character defining. Houses of that type and period had large prominent chimneys. Demolition of the chimneys will reduce the integrity of the house and the district. The rear chimney may also be character defining, but more information on its date of construction would be needed to say so. It would not be visible from the public way, though, anyway. So at any rate, I think there is a great interest in your, I guess, where you say replacing the windows with 6/6 divided muntins. I think that was a real hit with the Maine Historic Preservation Commission. So that part also is you're being applauded for that. But I think the chimneys are an issue. And I noticed in your application, you said that you were open to other ideas about that other than demolition.
Yeah, well, we did. Well, unfortunately, they are pretty much demolishing themselves at this point, just due to the condition that they're in and the lack of maintenance that's been done on them over time. So they will have to be addressed, to some degree. Again, when we wrote the application, Tim and I had brainstormed some ideas of, what we could do to try to maintain, the aesthetic of the chimney from the exterior. But really, it seemed the most appropriate thing to do was actually, removing the chimney from the interior of the structure. So if there was partially just in order to properly insulate and, bring the building up to a better standard thermally. So, and as a concern of water intrusion, just given their state. So we had some ideas about, is there a way to remove the chimneys as they stand now and then pretty much like replace them as a almost as a thin brick around a box, that would be constructed. So they would not be active chimneys, but they never will be active chimneys again unless they're completely rebuilt from the bottom up. Right. And that's just an incredible cost right now. So that was one thing we had thought of. Yeah.
I was going to say, maybe Chris, who's on our committee and is an architect, will have some comments, but before I turn it over to Chris, we do have a organization in Maine called Maine Preservation, and it's not the Historic Preservation Commission that sits in Augusta. It's a totally separate group of people, and they actually consult on difficult preservation projects. And I think, I don't even think they charge, but I'm not sure about that. Do you know about them, Tim?
I do not.
They do not.
Do they have
not
grants?
charge. I'm a member of Maine Preservation, but I have only been a member for a couple of years, and I pay my dues, and I see all these wonderful things that they do and the historic buildings in Maine that they consult with, but I didn't know if they charged or not. But Rosalie, who's been a member for much longer than I, knows they don't charge. So we can give you that reference. I mean, they would be glad to talk to you about what could be done, as opposed, if you don't want to build them up again or repoint them from scratch. But yeah. Chris, maybe you have some suggestions.
Well, I'm pretty familiar with that neighborhood because I lived at 95 Chestnut for the 80s and all that. And I remember some of this work being done. The chimneys, neither of their chimneys are original. And you can see the ones that are on the front of the house, they've all been added in height and all that. And they're not the same brick, and they I'm trying to remember, I don't think the dormers on the front, when
And
I
not-
lived in there were, I remember them being in, because it was always a very dark house and the
Yeah.
fence wasn't there. And there was all these scarlet runner beans and things on the entryway and all that. It was very spooky. And then it's been worked on over the years. And I think when they put in the driveway or something, I did a bunch of work at one Highland. And there was some discussion about that when they ran were you there, Andrea, when
Yes.
the driveway was put in and
Mhm.
and all that? But there are a lot of places around that have, if you drive by, you'll see a house with chimneys on it, and many of those chimneys or not many, but where they've been preserved, many of those chimneys are really just supported in the roof framing, and I've done a bunch of those where you have to hold up the chimney just to maintain the architectural character. But they are important to the building. The capes are often referred to as by their chimneys. We have a center chimney cape and end chimneys cape, gable end chimney cape, and things like that. So anyway, there are ways and the chimneys are too tall. They're put in because that's what the masons design calls for, a taller chimney and all that. So, I mean, they can be left in place or rebuilt. Your idea of putting a box in there and surrounding it with brick and putting the proper corbelline on the top of it and all that is a good idea. Just as long as you flash it well.
Right. That intersection.
Are there new chimneys going in?
No,
No.
Okay.
And so there's my.
I,
The rear, that thankfully can be gone.
Yes, I think it will be helpful to get rid of that.
Please.
And something a little more appropriate, but not a copy of the originals.
Right.
does anyone else have anything to add to that? Comments or questions? Well, I sounds to me like, I haven't heard from Eileen yet, but it sounds to me like we're all feeling like demolition of that rear portion would be fine and that there's no problem with that. And that all we're doing now is advocating for keeping the historic look. And I have a feeling that you wouldn't have bought that house if you weren't totally into historic buildings, and that you would want to do the right thing by the building.
Eileen is absolutely in support, and I definitely defer to the opinion of Chris and Rosalie and you, Pat, and realizing that the focus of the meeting is on the demolition of that outbuilding. I don't know what you call it, but that thing. And I'm very much in support of that.
Okay. And I will give you, Tim, the Maine Preservation contact person, and just see what you can find from them.
I've worked with Maine Preservation for many years. When I was up in Bangor, I ran the historic preservation program up there, and they do have, at least at that time, they did have they did provide consultancy for free for people working on historic properties. So I would reach out to them, and Pat, I can share that info with Helena and Tim, and they may be able to come over and kind of give you, Kelly, some ideas on ways to possibly preserve, or again, dismantle and rebuild something that may be appropriate there, should your budget and should your desire, should you want to do that. I think it's important to focus, and I think we're moving in that direction, about the 120-day delay period. And that's what the committee needs to really focus on now, is do you want to waive it? And if you want to waive it, I mean, we're already into it like 30 days almost. I think it's important that you have to determine that it's non-contributing or not architecturally or historically significant to this structure. And if you determine that, then the committee then can say, okay, we're going to waive it and move forward. And you can waive the 120 days in whole, or you could say waive, have a 60-day delay. I'm not sure there's a reason for it in this case. I mean, the intent on this originally was to try to engage someone that was going to demolish a whole building, I think, or at least a significant, architecturally significant portion of a building, and kind of get them to think about other options, other ways of doing a project. And then at some point, if demo was going to move forward, because again, this is just a delay ordinance about ways to salvage any materials, et cetera. So I think that's what the board should, or the committee should move forward on. Sorry,
Well,
Pat.
that's my last question is that in the ordinance itself, it did say that there should be a plan for repurposing materials, recycling and salvaging first, then recycling or repurposing materials. And I just wondered if you were aware of that, Tim, and if you had a plan for not just dumping it all off at the dump.
Well, there's some few things inside. There's some shelving and stuff like that. Inside the buildings, a few electric heaters and stuff like that. Some of those things that are still good, we do plan on reusing it or giving it to some of our team members if they want to use it on a project at their own house or something like that. Or if we don't find use for it, maybe in the basement for some shelving or something like that. But no, some of the stuff, whatever is salvageable, we'll reuse. But for the most part, old insulation, old 2x4s, things like that are really not going to be worth salvaging, just due to the fact that there's some black mold and stuff like that on it. Really, you don't want to reusing any of that stuff that's there. And then obviously the windows are all single paned and old and not really worth anything unless somebody wants to build a chicken coop and use them. Really, there's not too much for them.
Yeah, I think it is worthwhile maybe putting an ad or putting them out at the transfer station, those
Yep.
windows, putting those windows out, because I personally have used for some old glass sometime for an old chicken coop that I have. And you never know, people might pick up stuff at the transfer station if it weren't smashed, window
Yep.
glass and all that. Yeah. Okay, well, good. I just wanted to make sure you were aware of that.
I have a question. In the basement, are the chimneys, do they have a new foundation?
No,
Footing under the old stone?
old stone. Yep.
Okay.
But
The one
Is there any
in the back has more of a concrete base to it. That's newer.
That is actually the boiler,
Yeah, that's the one for the oil
Yeah.
furnace.
the oil furnace, yeah. Yeah,
I had a question on the brick, should you, if it ends up redoing it or redoing a part of it, I would fully recommend keep those old bricks, protect the heck out of them. When those come out, those shouldn't be dumped. They should be used for, when the chimneys are completely rebuilt, or if they are, or if only the tops are rebuilt on a faux top. So I would really encourage you not to dump those. And they, put them in a pile, put them on a lift, whatever, but they'll be important, Kelly, I think, to your even decorating and whatever you end up doing.
Okay, well, committee, I guess we could entertain a motion at this point. Is that?
Yeah, and make sure that you, someone makes the motion that you find that this rear portion that is proposed to be demolished is not contributing and is not architecturally or historically significant, and that you would waive the 120-day period if that's what you
So moved.
I can't make your motions, Chris.
Yeah, but I can't remember what you just said. Anyway, I think we should waive the 120-day waiting period, and that the rear addition that's proposed to be removed has no historical implications to the building or anything like that.
Important.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Do you want to include in there that they will do their best to salvage anything and everything as possible and to keep the bricks for period of
Well,
time?
it'd be good to keep, I think those chimneys, one of them looked like it was lined, and you might want to, they're not, okay, I'm sorry, it's the photograph, and I couldn't.
Maybe
Yeah,
just
whatever can be saved, except for the shutters.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you said that.
I've been doing a study for years about, and I call them shutters, and you know, the history of bad shuttering and all that. And this is a good example.
Thank you, Chris.
Beatty's got a
The
question.
windows, I mean, the windows are god awful
Yeah.
on the addition.
Mhm.
Yes, but one man's trash, you know, is another man's treasure. So, Beatty.
I just wanted to thank people for going through this as a first run. You know, this is our virgin thing, and I've been wanting a demolition delay and notification ordinance for a long time, and this is pretty exciting, and it's great that you put yourselves through it.
You know that.
I do have a question, but it doesn't need to be answered right now, which is what was the notification process? Because I'm not clear on that, but I can clear that up in my head later. So thank you.
Thank you, Beatty. Well, is Mike?
Oh, on the motion, I would encourage you all to include some language that encourages the owner and developer and builder to seriously look at options around the chimney. Because I personally feel it's such a visual there, and I know it's outside of what we need to do, but if anything, this whole approach has really pointed out the need that we need sort of greater protection in our community, you know, for future. I mean, you could have come in and torn it down, and you could have done that. And we're so pleased that you're not doing that, Kelly, and, you know, that you've got a historic perspective. So I'm speaking broader and just philosophical at this point, that as a community, we need to work toward that effort.
Yes.
And we have been.
Well, yeah, I would say it's nice to meet all of you. We're very excited about our move to Camden. And I was a history major, so I was really drawn to Camden because of, you know, just the history of the town and the beauty of all the old architecture. So we will really try to do whatever we can. We really, really wanted to keep the fireplaces and to keep them wood burning. But when we say cost prohibitive, it was shocking how much they want, you know, to rebuild them. But we will certainly work to keep at least a facade of the chimneys. We'll definitely do what we can, for sure.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And the brick should be painted to match the.
Yeah, and the shutters are gonna.
That was my kids' bus stop. They went up there every morning and stood on the corner there.
That's funny.
Well, we do have a 10-year-old. Well, we have two older children that will be away at college, but we're bringing our 10-year-old with us, obviously. And we're really excited for him to be starting at Camden Middle School too.
Oh, good. I just saw an ad
We
in the
can
paper
walk to
today.
school. That's great.
Well, you'll be glad to know, Kelly, I just saw an article in the Portland paper today saying that the Camden Rockport High School was rated in the top 10 in the US by US News and World Report. And I think they sampled 18,000 something high schools. They do it every year. And I think that's quite a tribute to the schools in Camden. But that was just today's news. So
Wow, that's great. And the schools were obviously a draw for us as well.
Well, it's nice to have you. It will be nice to have you in town. Thank you.
Thank you. We're very excited.
Thank you, Helena. Thank you, Tim.
Be-
And do
before
we have a motion now? We haven't had.
So we started a motion. It wasn't seconded yet, but then Michael had a good idea about just mentioning the chimneys as, as Kelly was saying that they're going to consider them in their work.
So Rosalie,
Could
would
I
you like
addend my
to?
How do we
motion
add that?
to include that?
Yeah,
He needs to write this.
Well,
Rosalie,
it's
how do
being,
we say that?
Jeremy?
I mean, it's being recorded, so I can get good wording for this, but I think that you've moved, that the building is not contributing, nor is it architecturally and historically significant, and that they work to salvage as much as possible, and that they do their best to
Of the chimneys, salvage,
do their best to
to preserve the
Maintain the
preserve and or
chimney
maintain the
appearance.
chimneys as best as possible.
Yeah, I think it's important to mention them because also they were mentioned in the application. So I think it's important to address how we think about them. And if we can say that they contribute to the character of the design, and it would be important to try to maintain them.
That works, Rosalie.
Okay. Do we have a second? Eileen? Mhm. Okay, and all those in favor?
I second it.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, well,
Thank you. Can I just touch on Beatty's question? She wondered about notice and how the ordinance works. Beatty is notice of the meeting was sent to using certified mail to abutting property owners, and notice was published in the newspaper at least 7 days prior to this meeting. So that's the public notice requirement that is in the ordinance, and that is what the applicant did do, and Jeannie in the office made that happen. So
The applicant did all this work and we have copies of all the receipts and of the newspaper ad.
Yep.
thank you.
And Pat, do you want to make a reference to the original landowners? Pat traced it back to the King of England.
What? No. Well, just about. I mean, it did go back to the 20 associates and in the 1700s, but I didn't. There's a lot in between that I left, and Kelly will enjoy looking that up when she gets here. History buff that she is. But anyway, thank you all for participating, Andrea and committee and Kelly and Phi. Appreciate it.
So I have one more question, and so now that we've made this decision and put the wording into it, how do we write it up and send it to the CEO?
I'll draft something up for you all, Pat, and maybe have you sign it as acting chair for the meeting, and then we can just you can send that back to me, and then I can get that to Phi and Kelly.
Okay.
Okay.
It'll go in the property file as well.
Okay.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Sure.
And thank you all again for such a nice initial or premiere application. That was
Okay.
I second that. You did well by the ordinance.
We try.
Thanks, Jeremy.
You got
Okay,
it.
I'm gonna leave. So thank you, Kelly. Good to meet you. You too, Helene and Tim, and I will and Andrea, and I will see the rest of you very soon.
Bye.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Okay. Thank you all.
Mhm.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Hello.